Long ago, in a city along the Arabian Peninsula, there lived a king and his daughter, who was finally of age to become married. 3 princes came from neighboring cities to court her. However, she looked at them in alarm. The first prince was very bossy. The second prince was unclean in his ways. And the third prince, he was just vain. The princess said to her father, "Please don't make me marry one of these men." The father loved his daughter, but did not want to upset the neighboring nations. "I'll need some time to think about it," he said. "Come back tomorrow." The next day, he summoned the princess and the 3 princes into his throne room. "Each one of you is worthy of my daughter's hand," he told them. "However, to make the correct decision, I need you all to venture out into the world, searching for a magical object. Whoever returns in 1 year and 1 day with the best item will marry my daughter." The princes set off. After 1 week of traveling, they came to a fork in the road. The first prince said, "Obviously, this is where we need to separate." The second prince answered, "Don't you think we already know that?" as he wiped his dirty hands all over his cloak. The princes decided that 1 week before they were due to meet at the palace, they would meet up and compare their objects. As they walked away, the third prince said, "I hope the princess doesn't slow me down by falling in love with me." The other princes rolled their eyes. When the time came, they met back at that very place. The first prince started. "I just found this crystal ball. Inside it, you can see anything that's happening anywhere in the world." The other princes were very impressed. Then the second prince went. From under his cloak, he pulled out a carpet and unrolled it. "It's a flying carpet," he said to them. "It can take you anywhere in the world you want to go in just moments." Then it was the third prince's turn. He pulled out a vial. "Inside is magic healing ointment," he told them. "It can heal anyone from anything, no matter how bad it is." As they began to leave for the palace, the second prince suggested, "Let's look in your crystal ball and see if our princess is still fair." Inside the ball appeared the princess, laying in her bed, still as death. Above her body hovered the doctor and the king. "Isn't there anything you can do for my daughter?" cried the king. "I'm sorry, sir," said the doctor. "We've done everything we can, and she doesn't have much time left." The princess instantly jumped up. "My healing ointment will heal her," cried the third prince. "But we'll never make it there in time." "Yes, we will," said the second prince as he unrolled his carpet. "Hop on. We'll be there in the blink of an eye." Sure enough, moments later they arrived in that room. Nobody even noticed they entered. The third prince walked straight to the princess with a dab of ointment on his thumb, touched it to her forehead, and she opened her eyes. She sat up and said, "Oh, I feel so much better." The king cheered, "It's a miracle! You've healed my daughter!" That night, they stood before the king in the throne room to show their objects. "Sir," said the first prince, "obviously out of all the magic objects, mine was the best. Without it, we would have never known the princess was sick. Therefore, I deserve to marry your daughter." The second prince then stood up. "With all due respect, sir, though it was very informative to hear that the princess was sick, we never would have made it here to help her without my carpet. So I deserve to marry her." Then the third prince stood up. "Though it was very important to hear that the princess was sick and arrived there in moments, she would have never been healed or cured without my ointment. Therefore, sir, I deserve to marry your daughter." The king was very confused. "I'm going to need some time to think about it," he said. "Come back tomorrow." That night, the king heard of a little old wise man who was visiting their nation from Russia. He heard that if that old man chose who his daughter married, the nations would not get mad at the king, but rather get mad at each other. He summoned him at once. "Send him to the court tomorrow." The next day, the little old man stood there with his cane and his voice of a whisper. The king stood. As far as I'm concerned, gentlemen, each of you is worthy of my daughter. But you, sir, you're from a foreign nation. What do you think?" The little old man stood up. He looked at the king and said, "Sire, first I would like to say it's an honor to be here. Second, all of your items helped save this princess. But in my country we know that since the princess's happiness is at stake, she should get a say in the matter. So princess, who do you choose?" She was silent for a moment. Then she stood. "I would like to thank all of you princes for helping to save me. However, out of all the men in this court, only this here little old man understood that it is ultimately my choice to decide who I marry. So for that reason, I choose him." The court gasped all at once. But you can't," cried the king. "I choose him, father, and it is my decision." She took the ointment and rubbed it on the back of the little old man's hands. Instantly, he grew young, tall, dark, and handsome. He gained the strength and the stature he had in his youth. The king addressed the three princes. "I will give each of you a large plot of land," he said. "I am so sorry, but I will never forget what you have done for me and my daughter." The princes left, their magic objects still in hand, and it did not take long before they each found their own princess from foreign lands. And so, they all lived happily ever after, as may you.